Some towns just seem to hold on to their stories a little tighter than others, don't they? Their history doesn't just live in books. It kind of lingers in the streets, in the cemeteries, and definitely in the whispers of local legend. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into one of those places, Marion, Indiana.
So, let's just start with the big question. What actually makes a town haunted? Is it like one single, terrifying event? Or is it something more like a collection of strange occurrences that just weave themselves into the very fabric of a place?
Well, in Marion, it's for sure a collection. We're talking about everything from the deep, deep echoes of a historical tragedy to the completely baffling mystery of a massive granite ball that just refuses to stay put. Oh, and you can throw in a statue with glowing eyes and a classic ghostly figure, and bam, you've got the perfect recipe for a truly haunted reputation.
Okay, let's get into it. What makes Marion's reputation so chilling isn't just that it has a bunch of ghost stories. No, it's how the town's real and sometimes very, very dark history just bleeds right into its supernatural lore, creating something you can't really pull apart.
And we have to start with the most intense and historically significant story. This is where a town's past trauma is said to show up in the most direct and chilling ways imaginable. So the crucial point is this. Back in August 1930, a horrific mob lynching took place, right there in the courthouse square. And this wasn't just a local tragedy. It became a defining, infamous moment in the history of racial violence in America. And a wound that deep? Well, many believe it never truly heals.
It's really no surprise, then, that the old jail where the victims were held is the absolute epicenter of these paranormal claims. People have reported seeing apparitions of the young men, their faces just frozen in terror. Others hear this disembodied heavy breathing in totally empty cells. And paranormal investigators claim they've captured what they call electronic voice phenomena, or EVP for short. Now, for anyone who's not familiar, electronic voice phenomena, or EVP, are sounds that get captured on recordings but aren't audible to the human ear at the time. Investigators interpret these as potential spirit voices, and in that old Marion jail, they believe they've recorded voices connected to that awful night. All right, let's move to a different kind of legend. We're going to shift gears from historical tragedy to a truly baffling physical mystery. We're heading to the Marion Cemetery to look at a story that actually made this small town famous. Okay, the story of the Merchant Ball is just bizarre. It starts in 1896 when this wealthy family puts up a monument. Now, the big polished granite ball on top had one small unpolished spot, which they intentionally placed face down so nobody would see it. But just 2 years later, that same rough patch was visible on the side. The family was so determined to fix it, they actually hired a crane, reset the ball, and even used tar to lock it in place. But it didn't work. The ball just kept moving. This mystery got so legendary, it was even featured in Ripley's Believe It or Not way back in 1929. And this right here is the heart of the mystery. We are not talking about a small stone. This is a polished granite sphere that weighs 5,200 pounds. That's over 2.5 tons. So how in the world is something that heavy moving on its own? And this is where the debate really gets going. Science, of course, offers plenty of plausible explanations. The granite expanding and contracting with the seasons, maybe moisture freezing and thawing in the tiny gap below, or maybe it's just slowly, imperceptibly settling into its true center of gravity. But for the locals, the answer is a whole lot simpler and a whole lot spookier. It's a restless spirit, some kind of supernatural force tied to the very grave it marks. But believe it or not, the Merchant Ball isn't the only strange tale to come out of the IOOF cemetery. This place seems to be a real hub for local lore. Let's see what else is going on in there. So, if a 2-ton moving granite ball wasn't enough for you, what else could possibly be hiding among the headstones of Marion Cemetery? Well, meet the Silent Sentinel. It's this statue that stands guard over a family's grave. And the legend is simple but just incredibly eerie. At night, in the dark, its eyes are said to glow with this distinct green light. This story got so ingrained in the local culture that it even became a rite of passage for law enforcement. Apparently, a favorite prank for veteran police officers was to find some excuse to send an unsuspecting rookie to go approach the statue in the middle of the night. Classic. Of course, science has a pretty likely answer for this too. The statue's material probably contains some kind of mineral that has phosphorescent qualities, or maybe it just reflects ambient light in just the right way. But let's be honest, natural phenomenon is a much less exciting story than haunted glowing eyes, right?
And that brings us to the cemetery's final secret, the lady in black. Now, in Marion, it's a simple, pretty somber tale of a mother who is eternally grieving at her son's grave. But what's really fascinating is when you compare it to other local folklore. Just 2 hours south of Marion, Steppe Cemetery has a much more famous Lady in Black legend, complete with a detailed backstory and visitors who leave toys on the grave. This kind of suggests that Marion's story is probably a local variation on a common Indiana ghost trope, a story that just adapts and takes root in different communities.
So, after exploring all these tales, from the truly tragic to the totally bizarre, we have to ask the big question. Why do these stories stick around? I mean, what purpose do they really serve?
Because the legends we've talked about, they're really just the most famous ones. The local community has this rich tapestry of other stories, haunted businesses, private homes. There's even a website dedicated to documenting them all. The lore just permeates the entire town. And that's really the heart of it all. A town's ghost stories aren't just for entertainment. They're like a living archive. They preserve the memory of profound tragedy, they celebrate these baffling mysteries, and ultimately, they become a fundamental part of a town's identity. Which kind of leaves you with one final thought. Maybe ghost stories aren't really about the dead at all. Maybe they're about the living, a way for a community to hold on to the parts of its history that are too important, too tragic, or just too strange to ever let go. Are they the history we simply refuse to forget?